On this episode of Man vs. Marriage, it's open mic. Woo ha 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 ha.
The podcast.
How good do you want your life to be?
It's truly about becoming the best version of yourself that's possible.
This is Man vs. Marriage.
The podcast.
And welcome back to another episode of Man vs. Marriage. Today, the player stretches the coach.
Yes, indeed.
So, Coach Rita,
Yes.
with all the feedback that we are getting, we sat down to plan the next few segments or the next several episodes of Man vs. Marriage. And there's just like tremendous feedback. Not only like, podcast feedback, but we're also talking about just what's going on around us in life. And I think sometimes when the atmosphere is like bubbling or percolating or screaming about something,
Right.
it's time for us to address it. So I want to take all the feedback that we've got and I want to put you on the spot.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yes.
You can
No,
say-
it's not.
You can say no.
but-
But hey, we promised that we would be authentic. So we're
Right.
stepping out of our comfort zone. I don't want people to get the idea that we script these shows.
No.
To where, I'm going to say this, you say this. That's
Right.
not what we do. But we do get together, so we do our due diligence when it comes to the subject matter.
Exactly.
But on the next few episodes, we're going to get into what's going on, what's the feedback we're getting, what's going on around us, and how we can help you, because chances are it's happening to you.
Right.
Okay, so let's get right into it. Here we go. This is unscripted. You are not prepared for anything.
Nothing.
That's
I'm
right.
coming in with nothing other than you and I sharing, just like what you said, just things around us, feedback, what's going on per se in the atmosphere with people.
Yeah.
And addressing that with no notes, no nothing, raw and ready to go.
That's right. And how comfortable are you feeling right now?
I'm so uncomfortable.
What did you
and
say?
And it's not like, oh my gosh, it's because I want to come and be able to give the listeners content and give them tools, and they could walk away having something. And that's, for me, that's like, okay, this is what I have. This is what I'm going to give them. Coming in, it's like, I don't know what you're going to ask me. I don't know where we're going to go with this.
That's right.
But hey, we don't have to like send this out into the world. We could delete it.
That's right. But guess what?
We're
gonna
not.
do it. We're not going to do it because you know what? Life is messy. Podcast is messy. And if you're trying to hit perfection all the time, it's just an unrealistic goal.
And I think you become irrelevant to people because,
Right.
Then you're not being true to you.
Yeah.
You're not really expressing in the moment what's really on your heart. It's more like, this is the knowledge that I have and this is what it is that I'm going to give you. So I'm coming from the heart today.
That's right.
So-
and we are ready. Okay.
Yep.
So I know one thing that Coach Rita was concerned about, and we just want to be very forthcoming. Our episodes usually go 30, 35 minutes.
Right.
And she's concerned that we may not have enough to fill a full episode.
Right.
I just want to give you this comfort that whatever we got, we're going to go with because it's important.
Right.
All around me, I lead and manage people. All around me, these types of things are happening. And we started engaging one another to say, what is going on out there?
Right.
What's happening? What's the feedback that we're getting? What is going on in the lives around us? And I want to just touch on this for a minute. I think we have found a great opportunity or a great solution for figuring out how good you want your life to be. And it comes from those 4 questions.
Right.
So for whatever the next umpteen episodes that go this open mic style, I'm going to repeat them. And I'm going to stand on the words that Ed Milet spoke over and over again. You don't need to say new things to old people. You need to say old things to new people. And that's the process where we're in this stage of Man versus Marriage.
Right.
We just need to keep saying what we've said because it's worked for us. It's proven itself.
It's
that
not
it works.
reinventing the wheel.
No, it's not necessary.
No.
We can make the wheel better, but there's no reason to reinvent it.
Right.
So the questions are this, Coach Rita. It is, what do you want in your life?
Right.
What do you want? And then, why do you want it? And then, what are you willing to do?
Right.
There's a few sub-questions under that.
Right.
And that is, let's define what you're doing. What is serving you? What habits are serving you? What habits are sabotaging you?
Right.
Because then once you know that, you can redefine.
Exactly.
And the next step or the next question is, what are you willing to do, or what action are you willing to take to get on the move?
And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck and get frustrated, because no one's really, we could all sit back and we could all say, well, this is what I want. This is why I want it. And that's where we stay. That's where we land. And we aren't giving ourselves permission to take action on the why and redefining your why. Because like I have said before, how I was at 23 is totally different how I am at 53.
That's right.
Totally different. So you have to be able to redefine who you are in those moments when life brings you something that you know you're going to have to pivot and change a little bit. It's what action are you willing to take in order for your why to get your why out there and to be able to obtain what it is that you want.
Right.
But most of us don't want to take that action or don't know how to take that action. And we stay in a state of frustration.
Yeah, we do. We do. And we only know because we've been there.
Yes, many
know,
times.
We have been there. So as Coach Rita and I were talking about these episodes, we were just looking at each other going, what the heck is going on out and around people right now?
Right.
And we just started to write down some of the feedback or some of the feelings or some of the things that we're hearing, maybe some things that she's coaching some of her clients with. And it kind of came down to these few things. Okay, so let's jump right into that. So feeling frustrated.
Right.
Feeling overwhelmed.
Yes.
Not knowing how to communicate your feelings and what's really going on inside of you.
Right.
Lost in the cycle, like we talked about. No connection, whether that's with your wife or, heck, whether that's with yourself. You can't connect with yourself.
Exactly.
So yourself, your wife, your job, your friends, your kids, whatever that thing is. And then just plain old being unhappy.
Right.
And those are the things that we started talking about. So in this episode, as much as we can, I just want to focus for a few minutes for us to get some open dialogue on frustration. And maybe we stop it there once we're done.
Right.
But we need to show our guys and gals a bit behind the scenes about how we talk through these things, because I firmly believe as they hear us talking about it, then they'll know how to approach it with their self.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Is that a good plan?
Yeah.
Good.
We
That's
could
the
do
plan
that.
that I had. So
Okay, good.
All right. So the feelings of frustration. Here's a couple things. What are some of the fruits of frustration? Like if somebody's frustrated. I mean, can you think of a situation right now that you're frustrated in? And can we start bullet pointing that?
Right.
And I've got a pen. So if there is some dead air, that's because it's me writing things down. Okay? So is everybody good with that? I didn't hear anybody say no. You said good, so we're good. All right, so let's talk about being frustrated. Who out there is frustrated?
Oh, let's just first say you can't just go through life and think you're never going to get frustrated.
Right.
You know, you're never going to get angry. You're never going to get mad. You're not going to show those emotions. Like, it's just all part of life is those frustrations. It's when you don't work yourself through the frustrations and you're just a frustrated person. And it's having the ability to recognize it. And like I said, everyone's going to get frustrated. You're going to have those moments. It's learning how to navigate your way through it. And some of the behaviors, oh gosh, like everyone's different in voicing and expressing their behaviors of frustration. You could have people who can totally rip you from one end to the other. You have people who are silent. You have people who are just, they go inward and internalize everything. And like I said, you have the other people who are very vocal, very, very outspoken when it comes to the frustrations that they're feeling.
So here's what I mean right now, if there's a situation with yourself, or there's a situation an issue you have with somebody else, and if you do any of this is what I hear you saying. If you do any of these things very quickly, you're frustrated.
Yeah.
If you just shut down immediately, like you stop listening.
Exactly.
So as far as shut down, we would say stop listening. If you do this fast, like if it's your first reaction, if you just start to internalize everything. I don't really know. I don't have an example to give about that. Maybe we can work through that in a minute.
Sometimes how you figure out when someone's frustrated is this. It's when you have someone in front of you telling a story of what has taken place in a situation. And you hear their frustration. You hear it in their tone. You hear it in their story that they're telling you. When in turn, they should be speaking to the person that this is happening to. They shouldn't be speaking to me.
Got you.
Because what they're doing, they're internalizing it. Even though they're sharing it with me, they're not sharing it with the right person that you need to be talking to. The frustration that you're feeling towards a situation. So you're free to tell me all of this. However, you're not going to that person, whether it be your husband, your family member, or your kids, whatever, your boss. And instead of speaking what's on your mind, instead of sharing what's going on with you, you just go in and just bury it, and it's just there, and you don't deal with it, and and you stuff it, and you move on, you put your happy face on, and until you run into that person again. And then all that stuff, all those feelings start coming back up again.
And is it fair to say that if you're internalizing everything, you're like constantly hashing and rehashing this situation out? So you're like, it's a constant conversation, like a relentless thinking and overthinking, and you just continue to think about it until it consumes you, right?
It is consuming.
Yeah, I've got some of those situations in my life. I really do.
We all do.
Some things in my life have just overstepped the boundaries, and I never beat them back with a baseball bat or corrected them or whatever the case is. So it's like you're just constantly, you sit in the morning to try to meditate, try to separate yourself and get your mind in order. And it's like these situations are just relentless. They just keep coming back. And before you know it, that's what you're thinking about.
Right. It's how you look at it. It's the story that you're telling yourself over and over again.
Ooh, that is really good.
And it's what it is. What's the story you keep telling yourself, and you keep telling yourself that, so it just leads to frustration because you're constantly feeding that same story. So how do you work through it? Is you got to change the story. You have to start changing the dialogue that is speaking to you the loudest on a situation that you're frustrated about. That's how you work through the frustration. You not working through the frustration is you just keep telling yourself and repeating that story over and over and over again. Because like you could be frustrated because someone did you wrong, and you're just going to keep replaying how that person did you wrong instead of going to that person and talking to that person and airing out your grievances. Like let's be adults. Let's like come together and talk about this. This frustrated me, or I didn't appreciate the way that you spoke to me, or I'm having a problem the way, you name it. Like, it's out there. You could pick whatever one you want.
Yep.
But where we get stuck is on the story that we're telling ourselves. And half the time, the story that we're telling ourselves is usually not true. It's usually not how it really, it's really not how all it played out.
Come on.
You're adding things in there based on other things that have happened. And you're saying to yourself, see, this is happening to me again. No, it's just the story that you have on repeat that just keeps going and going and going.
That is
So your
good.
life is just a frustration based on a story that you keep telling yourself.
Wow.
So if you're saying, okay, Quincy, you're saying I have these situations and, these things that I'm dealing with, it's actually you having the ability to engage in that story that you're saying and really being able to discern whether or not this is true, or is this something that I'm just making up based on insecurities, your self-image, your ego, your pride. You call it whatever you want to call it, because you have to be the one to decipher through it. I'm not in your head to be able to decipher through that.
Right.
You're going to have to be the one to do it. You're going to have to be the one to make the choice that, like, the story that I'm constantly telling myself is not true.
And we Coach Rita can certainly help you through that if you're, can I say man enough?
You could say that, I think.
If you're man enough to reach out, Coach Rita can help you. As an unbiased party, to look at what you're frustrated about in your situation, and help give you a little bit of feedback on what's going on what is that story. Now, all that stuff that you just said is about internalizing it.
Right.
Holy cow. I mean, come on, what are you doing over there? And you were worried. So we got if you too quickly, okay, if you just shut down and stop listening, or you immediately internalize it and you just start hashing and rehashing, those people who explode or lash out, are they frustrated? Because that's what I heard. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Yes.
Is that if somebody says something to you like this, I can give you a great example. Well, that's a nice shirt. And then automatically it's an explosion, defensive. And, why are you saying, I'm like, whoa, that person's really frustrated about something. You can't even take a compliment.
Right.
Or you're taking a compliment and you're turning it around to be a negative. Mm-hmm. I know some other things we talked about that were kind of signs of frustration was constantly being disappointed.
Yes.
Feeling like you're losing. What is that about? What is this disappointment thing that has people stuck or frustrated? I mean, I'm sure that, you coaching people for as long as you have, you see that. Mm-hmm. But what are some things that you've heard where people are like, what's the word I'm looking for? Habitually disappointed. Mm-hmm. Is that's based on a frustration?
An expectation of how they thought something needed to show itself, how it was supposed to appear according to how they thought, in the expectation of, I mean, it could be so easy in a marriage. You have this thought, this fantasy, this expectation of how you and your husband are going to be 20 years from now, and you get there in 20 years and you're disappointed because it's not what it was that it turned out to be. But it could just be moments, like year after year after year. It's like they're not living up to this expectation. So you have to start being real with yourself. You have to have, you really have to sit down. I'm not saying life is life. Like, life is life, and you're going to face disappointments, and you're going to face frustrations. You're going to face things that are overwhelming. But if you don't get a grip on life and learn how to walk through these things, you will live a disappointed, frustrated life because you haven't been able to take something that is happening and to allow it to empower you. You've allowed it to disempower you and to put you in a state of being victim to a circumstance of, this always happens to me. Like, I always get disappointed. Like, nobody ever comes through. Nobody ever does this. And we put all the responsibility on everybody else to foresee your happiness. Instead of saying, okay, where is it that I take responsibility in this? Because God forbid we take responsibility in this day and age.
Yeah.
That,
So
where is it that I need to take responsibility? And it's not always an easy thing. Disappointments happen in life, but you have to learn, how do I walk through it? How am I going to get to the other side? With frustration too, it does happen. I'm not going to say you're going to go through life and these things aren't going to happen. They are going to happen. It's understanding that you're going to make the choice to either sit in the frustration, sit in the disappointment, or you're going to fight your way out of it to get to the other side of it, that you can see something better than just being frustrated all day long. Or, I had an expectation and I'm disappointed because it didn't turn out the way that I thought it should turn out.
Wow. I mean, it's so full of what, for what you're saying. There's so much to think about. Because you do get stuck.
Yes.
And it's like, it's not, once you put on, let's go back to like a living life by design technique. And let's say you have some glasses and you put the shade of frustration is on those glasses. That's almost, unless you take those glasses off, that's how you'll see everything.
Right.
So it will infect everything about you, especially if you're internalizing it.
Yes.
Because now people who have nothing to do with your situation will now become the beneficiary of you, the frustrated person. If you don't know how to compartmentalize that until you work through it, if you can't separate yourself until you work through it. And I had a situation the other day where I was really frustrated about some things going on with work.
Right.
Just really. And I was talking to my mom on the phone, and she has a situation going at home where, she has to paint her house. And I'm trying to recommend somebody. I know this person's going to help her and is going to be more accommodating with payment and price. And, she recently had some work done by another contractor, and he did a great job, so she's comfortable with him.
Right.
And I started getting frustrated that she just wouldn't see it my way to try it my way. It's like, why won't you just be quiet and take what I'm giving you? And I said, stop. Right now I'm in this mindset because I'm frustrated about situations that have nothing to do with her. And I had to stop. I had to pump the brakes. And I had to kind of regroup myself and say, you know what, Mom? I'm coming across short and irritated, but it has nothing to do with you. This has everything to do with a different situation, so I'm sorry. And it's your house. You're free to do what you feel most comfortable with.
Right.
And I have no qualms about it. I want what I feel like's best for you, but hey, guess what? You're an adult. And
you get to make the decision.
You get to make that choice about what's best for you. Now, if I didn't do that, then I would take that situation with my mom and I would just keep replaying, I can't believe she won't. I can't believe she won't this. It's ridiculous. I know this is better for her. She's just not going to do it. She's just not. And then the next thing you know, my wife comes up and asks me for some advice. I give it to her. She doesn't take it, and I'm going to loop her and group her into this frustration because it's not going the way I think it should.
Right.
And it just starts to really reinforce itself because now everybody that doesn't do what I feel like they should do because I'm trying to help them becomes this growing snowball that turns into an avalanche or a tornado of frustration
Mm-hmm.
because I've internalized the whole thing. I haven't looked at it as a separate situation that has nothing to do with what's going on to the left or the right. It's this. It's
Right.
nothing more. So let her choose what she wants.
Right.
Give her the information. But don't set this silent expectation and take the frustrations from the other things going on in my life
Mm-hmm.
and infuse those into my mom's situation. I just can't do that.
Right.
And that's what I did. So
Well, frustration is it boils down to unfinished business that you didn't deal with.
I took a drink of water. What did you just say?
It's just unfinished business. It's just unfinished business that you didn't deal with.
Holy cow.
Because you okay, so when you're talking to somebody and they're sharing with you, like, I'm so pissed off at my husband or I'm so pissed off at my wife, they're voicing their frustration because they did not personally deal with what they should have been saying to that person. So it's like unfinished business that they chose not to deal with. And like you said, you just bring it into the next whatever conversation you're having with somebody. And if it remotely reminds you of, or it triggers those emotions that you just had with that unfinished business that you didn't do because you didn't feel like talking about it, it's just such a vicious cycle that you put yourself in. So you have to go back and ask yourself, what am I really like frustrated about, angry about, mad about? Like, what am I really mad about?
Yeah.
And let's deal with that.
Right.
Let's not take it out on everybody else, because really visually, when you look at a tornado, when it goes through and wreaks havoc on a city, the damage, the destruction, the loss of lives, like that's you in a frustrated state.
Wow.
So if you get to the other side of it and you kind of like blow it all off because you blowed it all on everybody else, and if you turn around and look back and see what you just created, like, okay, was that worth it?
Right.
So it's really having the maturity and having the ability to rise above the frustration like you did with your mom and recognize it and get to the root of the unfinished business that you didn't deal with. Get to that and resolve that. Come to a resolution in that, and then come back to me and let's talk and let's see if dealing with that released your frustration.
Wow.
Because really it is just unfinished business. It's unfinished business that we should talk, and even having a talk with ourselves.
Exactly.
Like, we could just be frustrated with ourselves
Exactly.
in the situation, and I can't believe I put myself here. I can't believe I let myself get to this place again. And it's just frustration, and then you're just like, all right, wait. Like, I need to put this into perspective.
Yeah.
I need to, like, resolve the unfinished business that I chose just to stuff it, not deal with it. Like, put it on the back burner. We'll just deal with it later. However, you're destroying all these people in front of you based on something that has nothing to do with them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. My mind's running 100 miles an hour on a 50-mile-an-hour freeway. That just sheds a lot of light on it. And I think there are so many people around me that are frustrated.
Yes.
You know, it's almost like I want to go on that Jeff Foxworthy, you know, if you do this, you might be a redneck.
Right.
And I think we could point some of those things out, and it might help people to really manage through it, because I have great hope that you, guy, even gal, because we've got so many girls listening.
We do.
You know, that you, human being, are looking at some of the things in your life now to say, am I frustrated? Because if you're frustrated about certain things in your life, you could be stuck there, and it could be dominating your mindset. It could be affecting your ability to, you know, connect with yourself or your wife or your kids or whatever the case is, because you've internalized it most likely. And then when you internalize it and you just keep telling yourself the same story, you reinforce these negative situations. And sometimes, let me tell you, sometimes when I'm frustrated, I'll start doing thinking for other people. And when I do the thinking for other people, it just frustrates me more because I think I know what they're thinking. So what would make somebody not want to finish the business and get rid of that frustration? What is it? I mean, for a guy, it's like, what, do you just not have the courage? You just don't want to deal with it? You don't want to talk about it because you're concerned that you might lose in the conversation? Any number of things, just a few. If you have some examples, would be helpful, Coach Rita, for us to do some reflecting, as an audience of this show, and say, why wouldn't I finish that business?
Right.
What do you think? What are some things that you've heard, or maybe some business that you haven't finished in your life? Any ideas?
I think sometimes we're unaware. I think sometimes we have bought into the story, the repeater of what's going on in our minds, that we're not even aware. Like, a lot of people think that we could do life by ourselves. And everybody says, to raise a child, it takes a village. You have to think of that too, as you're coming into a marriage, you're coming into a relationship, when you're coming into working with people. It's like, you have to have people around you, because to raise you to where you want to be and what you want to become is, you're going to have people around you that are going to call you on your BS, call you out when you're frustrated, and you give people that right to come up to you and say, hey, like, you're coming off a little sharp, or you're being a little bit abrasive right now. Like, what's going on with you?
Yeah,
because we're so unaware of ourselves. Because in the midst of life, and as we go through things in life, we don't have a mirror in front of us reflecting what it is and how it is that we're projecting ourselves.
Right.
So we need the village around us to come alongside of us to say, hey, like, pull your crap together, or some, I don't know, whatever verbiage you want to use.
Yeah.
Or that's not okay. You got to have people to start calling you on your behavior, because then you start recognizing it. It stops you. You can't kill them. You can't, like they say, don't kill the messenger. They're just the messenger.
Right.
You have to have people in your lives to be able to help you and understand it, that it's helping you, because you don't see you for you.
Right.
So when you're coming off and you're frustrated, you're coming off and you have these different behaviors that you really want to start, like, putting an end to them. It's giving those people permission to come in your life and say, hey, that's not how you said you want it to be. It's opposite of what you're saying you want it to become.
Yeah.
And that's not okay. And it's up to you to decide, ooh, like, yeah, that wasn't cool. Like, I shouldn't have said what I said, or I came off the wrong way. That wasn't my intention. But if you don't have that in life and you're going to do life by yourself, try that. See how it's working for you.
How's that working for you?
Yeah.
Very true. That's wisdom from the top shelf right there. And something that I didn't even think about. I was just too consumed in the moment about, what the heck am I frustrated about? Because, I think when you're frustrated, you find yourself disengaged.
Totally.
And you feel like you're losing, and you feel like nothing's going to go your way. You feel like, here we go again. And I think those are really evident signs of frustration.
Yeah.
And it can shut you down.
And they're true feelings. I don't want to say that this isn't true, and I don't want to make it sound like what you're feeling or you feeling frustrated isn't okay. It is, but don't stay there.
Right.
Don't
Very good.
Stay there. Get yourself on the other side of it, because there is another side of it.
Right.
It's just whether or not you're going to choose to look at it.
And I think when you do that, when you're able to work yourself through that situation, it helps you for the next time. Because like you said, life's always going to happen.
Always.
Whether you're, no matter what's your creed, what's your religion, what's your race, what your gender, how tall you are, how short you are.
Whether you're engaged or disengaged,
that's
it's
right.
going to happen.
Life is continually happening. There's too many things that are just outside of your control.
Right.
But what you can control is how you react to things.
Exactly.
It's much more difficult if you don't have the right tools for the job. And that's why we're giving you this moment here as some signs or symptoms of frustration. But what's the root of that?
Right.
Unfinished business.
Unfinished business.
Holy cow. That is a gem. That is an absolute gem. It's unfinished business. And you got to figure out, why didn't I finish this business?
Right.
And what am I going to do about it? So, I mean, that is like, I love it. I love it because I found myself there in the past. I live amongst people. I'm not just talking about my household, but I live amongst people that are constantly frustrated. If your face is the TV screen to your soul, people are frustrated. They're playing the movie on their face.
Yeah.
Some people are better at others than
Right.
playing a movie.
Yeah.
But let's just be real. Let's get authentic. Let's identify what's the story in your head. How can you identify what's sabotaging you? How can you identify what part of the story is serving you in a positive way? Because some of the story might be serving your misery and give you an excuse to remain there.
Exactly.
But that's not what we want. We don't want that. What we want is to change our life so that we can become that best version of ourselves.
Yep.
And being stuck or frustrated will put you in a slump, because now you are taking valuable resources, mental resources, you're stealing them and infusing them into frustration, which you could be using those to think about, how do I grow? You could be using those to spend time at reflecting on what you're thankful, what you have gratitude for, why you're proud of yourself, and how you want to make a positive impact in somebody's life.
And showing up in relationships in a healthy way.
Showing up, being all in.
All in.
Being all in.
Yep.
Yeah, see? That's fantastic. That is fantastic. I think we should kind of pause it right there.
Okay.
I don't know where we're at on time, but I think we're in pretty good shape for this episode. I'm just going to break it down for you here real quick. Look, if you find yourself disengaged, constantly disappointed, feel like you're losing all the time, looking for answers to what's going on in your life, but you cannot figure them out, you might be frustrated. If you do these things too quickly, you might be frustrated. Here's one. If you just shut down and stop listening, like nothing's going to change, I'm done, I walk away. Mentally, I just walk away.
Right.
If you're internalizing it, overthinking it, rehashing it, telling yourself the story over and over and over again, like obsessing over it, you might be frustrated. If you're lashing out, if you just explode, you go from zero to explosion over things that just don't matter as much as they should, you might be frustrated. And then if you look at what the root of frustration is, it's just unfinished business. Now you have the awareness to take inventory of yourself. And aim small, miss small. You won't have to look very far to figure this out, right? So take these things. Decipher what the story is. Right. Listen to it. Go back to episode 29, 30, and 31. They're called the Think Master episodes that teach you about thinking. Refer to those. They'll help you.
Right.
And then kind of write out the story of what these frustrations are. Email the coach. Let her read over it. She can give you some simple feedback. And it's going to do nothing but improve you as a man.
Right.
And
I believe that.
And just think. Just think of the freedom you'll have. Then you can devote those resources to being all in the moments where you are. You can devote those resources to thinking about a great future and how proud and happy you are, and start to reinforce some positive things. You can give yourself a break because you could probably use it.
Yep.
So I think that's a fantastic episode. I wrote down here, Freddy Frustration. Choke slam him. Capture him. If your name's Freddy, I'm sorry. Not sorry that your name's Freddy, but that I used frustration with it. It just rhymes. Okay, so reach out to us. You can email us at coach@manvsmarriagepodcast.com. That's coach@man, V like victory, S like success, marriagepodcast.com. Or reach out to us on Facebook to further the discussion over in our Facebook community. That's at MVSM Podcast. And until next time, for Coach Rita, I'm Quincy Moran, and I approve this message. Good night now.
The podcast. How good do you want your life to be?
You gotta live on purpose, for a purpose.
It's truly about becoming the best version of yourself that's possible. This is Man vs. Marriage, the podcast.